Hi, shalom everyone. I'm going to continue the series of the great rabbis of yesteryear. Now, we've covered already in this series about 575 great chachamim over here, and it happens to be the Hilula here pretty much on Rosh Chodesh Tevet of a great former Spanish-Portuguese head chief rabbi of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth. His name was Rabbi Abraham Levy. He also got the OBE title from Britain in of itself. He was actually born, I believe, on the 16th of July in English year 1939 and passed away on the 25th of December in the year 2022, approximately 2 years ago from the time of recording. He was an author. Also, he was, let's say, the spiritual head of the Spanish and Portuguese Jewish community for many, many years. He was a founder, let's just say, of the name Jewish Preparatory School also. And Rabbi Levy was also appointed an officer of the Order of the British Empire, naturally we call that OBE in short, for services, especially on interfaith cooperation. This happened to be in the 2004 New Year's Honours List. This was approximately just over 20 years ago. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, he was born on the 16th of July in the year 1939 in Gibraltar. In fact, he had various different, let's just say, greatness he actually came from in of itself. I believe happened to be reported over that I think he had great Sephardic legacy in of itself and great lineage. I believe he came from the exiles, his family did, from Castile after the expulsion, or the Spanish expulsion in the year 1492. It's reported over that a relative of his mother in Morocco was actually knighted by the King of Spain in the 16th century. Apparently the earliest known rabbi on his father's side could actually even be traced from around the 17th century period in Morocco. His parents was Isaac Levy and Rachel Levy, and he happened to be actually a middle child, a third of 5 children. It was reported over the family, which is very interesting. It's actually reported over as another added tidbit. The family flat was the first Jewish-owned property in that specific territory when it was acquired by a relative in the 1730s. In of itself. Now, it's actually interesting. Rabbi Abraham Levy went to a Jewish primary school that his father actually helped to re-establish after the Second World War, but would be later sent to England to complete his education. He was actually went to the, let's say, recently opened at that point in time, the famous Carmel College in Oxfordshire. Many people, famous people, actually attended this school over here. I think at that point in time, Carmel College was under the leadership of Rabbi Paul Rosen, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually, I think at that stage in time, he really wanted to set his eyes out to potentially become a rabbi. He took on, naturally, the A-levels, higher education, and then went to the University of London, if I'm not mistaken, a Semite degree as part of, let's say, a ministerial training at the famous Jews College. And it's actually interesting, much more can be related to that. I think actually when he was only 17 years of age, he was actually awarded a scholarship as a student chazan at the London synagogue, to which he devoted much of his life, especially in Lauderdale Road in Maida Vale, which happens to be, like, let's say, one of the main communities, the flagship community of the Spanish and Portuguese Jewish congregation, as obviously then it was called at that point in time in of itself. Remember, we've spoken about related over many great Spanish and Portuguese rabbis of yesteryear inside this series so far, which we've mentioned on various occasions before. It actually happened to be in the year 1951. He moved to Carmel College, received his ordination eventually at the Jews College. He would also receive his PhD from the University of London. Later on, I think he would become the spiritual head of the British, Spanish and Portuguese community, and it's a position for many years. He would keep this position, I believe, till the year 2012. This was, remember, we've spoken about the Spanish-Portuguese community on various occasions before. I believe the first chief rabbi, if I'm not mistaken, a head rabbi, you could say, was Rabbi Sasportas, who we've mentioned about on various occasions before. This was during the mid-1600s in of itself. Well, we've mentioned this on various occasions. So he would, Dr. Abraham Levy, would keep this position till the year 2012. And he would also serve as a rabbi of the famous Bevis Mark Synagogue and Lauderdale Road Synagogue. This was in England. And These were very, very historical synagogues in of itself. He would become the honorary deputy president of London School of Jewish Studies, and he would be the founder and the honorary principal of the Naima Jewish Preparatory School. Very interesting enough. Now, he passed away on the 25th of December in English year 2022. He was 83 years of age at the time of passing. He had one son. He was buried himself at the Hoop Lane Sephardi Cemetery in Golders Green. Many of the great dignitaries would actually pay highest respects within regards to him. Also, King Charles paid tribute to him, describing him as, let's say, a kind and towering figure, and said he knew him as a greatly respected and admired teacher across various different communities. Now, he would receive various honors also, including, I believe, in 1993, Rabbi Levy was actually awarded a Knight Commander Order of Civil Merit, I think in Spain, if I'm not mistaken, the Encomienda. And I believe in 2004, as we stated before, Rabbi Levy was appointed an officer of the Order of the British Empire. And actually, we call that the OBE, for services to interfaith cooperation work. So it was seen by many as an interfaith leader in of itself. His wife's name was Rabbanit Estelle Nahum, and I believe he got married to her in the year 1963. And I think at that stage in time, he actually received his rabbinic diploma at that point in time, or ministerial diploma. And very much, I think he actually he became the first student, it was reported over also, to receive rabbinic ordination from the famous former chief rabbi of England, Chief Rabbi Emanuel Jakobovitz. That happened to be in the year 1967. Now, his appointment to Lauderdale Road was in the year 1975, nearly about 50 years ago from the time of recording. And that's when he actually imprinted, let's say, his mark on the Jewish community itself. Reported over in the year 1978, he launched a Jewish Leadership Institute, which happened to be, let's say, an innovative program that aimed to, let's say, equip British Jewry's future leaders in of itself with a solid foundation of Jewish knowledge. Many of the tutors included the young Rabbi Jonathan Sachs at that point in time, who would later on become the chief rabbi, naturally, as we know, and become Lord Sachs. And he passed away himself a few years ago. He received, I think, completed a doctorate on court rabbis of medieval Castile, if I'm not mistaken. And much more can be said. I think he would work along with Diane Pinchas Toledano, who headed the Sephardi Bet Din at, one stage at a significant time period, while he was actually acting as in the premiership role in of itself. The Naimi Jewish Preparatory School was actually opened in Maidavale, I believe, in the year 1983, which happens actually to be, I believe, the first Sephardic school in the United Kingdom, I think at that stage in time, in that specific century, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously, there was huge expansion with regards to Jewish daily schooling system in Britain, in the UK, after this time period in of itself. And it really did, still is a very flourishing school in of itself. And much more, he did, as we stated before, huge amounts of interfaith work, especially in the year 1992. And especially at the time of the international commemoration of the 500th anniversary of the expulsion of Jews from Spain, he was very much active within regards to that commemoration. Let's say he really promoted, especially, increased awareness within regards to the heritage and history within regards to Sephardic Judaism in itself. He helped report it over to, let's say, foster reconciliation with the country that had driven out, let's say, his ancestors to Spain, naturally, in of itself. Actually, King Carlos of Spain was very impressed with his fluent Spanish. And it's reported over, as we stated before, Spain actually made him a Knight Commander of the Order of Civil Merit, obviously when he was also appointed to the OBE in the year 2004. And he reached beyond all different interfaith worlds in of itself, especially the Christian world, to cultivate good relations, especially with Morocco. He was very, very much a people's person. And it's actually reported over that many of his relatives were great people himself. Sir Joshua Hassan, I believe, was his uncle. He was a chief minister of Gibraltar. And they were in dialogue a lot of times, working together on various different issues in of itself. And yet much more can be related over him. I recommend everyone to research more about the great rabbi in of itself. And I think in the year 2006, he actually revived the homegrown smicha with his longtime ally, Lucien Gubai. Man that he collaborated on various publications and practical guides within regards to Judaism, which has to be pointed out. I think it was actually sponsored by the Montefiore Endowment, and this actual program in itself enabled part-time study and introduced a fresh stream of rabbinic talent into communal service in of itself. And it's actually interesting. I think they came up with a Dayanut training program also in of itself. This was some years later on, which has to be pointed out. By the time, I think he retired actually from the pulpit at the age of 73 years old. Another great, let's just say, thing that he actually achieved during his time period as a leader was he established the first local mikveh, which also has to be pointed out. He remained... Throughout, even after he retired, he was engaged through the Montefiore projects in of itself. He helped, reported over, secure the patronage of the then, let's say, the Prince Charles for the appeal for Bevis marks. And at that stage in time, whose new visitors centre was due to open later of that specific year in of itself. And much more can be said about him. I recommend everyone to research about Rabbi Abraham Levy in of itself. And please don't forget to light candles in his memory. He passed away, I believe, on 24th to 25th of December 2022. And he was survived by his son Julian and 4 grandchildren and a brother and a sister. And it happens to be Rosh Chodesh Tevet. And please, everyone, join the channel over here. We've covered many great rabbis of yesteryear. We're especially concentrating on the great Mizrahi rabbis of yesteryear. And we're exploring about the chief rabbi of the Spanish-Portuguese Jewish community. Later on, after him, Rabbi Joseph Dweck would actually become the next leader and currently is still the head rabbi of the Spanish-Portuguese community here as we're recording towards the end of December 2024. And we actually dedicated a video not so long ago where we spoke about the history of the Spanish and Portuguese Jewish community in the United Kingdom in of itself. And we've already related over about 5-6 great rabbis from the S&P of the UK of yesteryear inside this series also. So please, everyone, subscribe and learn more about the great Chachamim. Wishing you all well. Take care.